Yeah, there we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of SacTown Movie Buffs. Once again, I'm Kier, and this is Jason. And today we are going to be doing a tribute show for Chadwick Boseman. As you guys know, he passed away some time ago, recently, and we thought we would just take the opportunity, maybe just to kind of talk a few brief minutes about some of the roles that he's played, the characters, and then kind of the magnitude of that. And then since we are a movie review show, we would also do our favorite or top three Chadwick Boseman films as well. So you definitely want to hang around for that. Um, so I'm going to go ahead and just start it off and kick it off with that. So we'll just get into it right away. So everybody primarily knows Chadwick Boseman from obviously the Black Panther role, and I'm going to touch on that in just a moment. But he really was a great actor. He was somebody that seemed like he was just kind of on his way to he wasn't quite at like the Denzel Washington or Will Smith type status, but he seemed like he was right there on the cusp where there was going to be a lot of opportunities that were going to come up for him in the future or in that kind of stuff. So it seems like he died kind of right at the peak of where he was headed to as far as his career was going. And so I just wanted to just kind of briefly just kind of talk about not only just the Black Panther, but we'll get into the other roles as well. But I wanted to kind of just share and share a little light on kind of what that character meant for so many kids and that sort of stuff as well, because I don't think a lot of people understood the magnitude of what Black Panther meant for a lot of people and a lot of kids today as well. Just myself growing up, growing up, I really didn't have a character that a superhero character, I guess, if you will, that looked like me. We always, every Halloween, I kind of dressed up as Superman or Batman or Spider-Man and that kind of stuff, which is cool. I mean, they're great superheroes. I love them. They're awesome. But it would have been nice to have a character like a Black Panther growing up that I could look at that looked like me. Kind of in the same way of Obama being the first Black president. When I was a kid, it was kind of like this thing where you could be anybody, you could do anything, you could be president someday. But I think until I actually saw a Barack Obama become president, it was kind of like one of those things where like, okay, well, now you really can say that to kids and they can do that. And so I kind of felt the same kind of way about the Black Panther character, just because, it just means so much to a lot of people and a lot of kids that came up because they were able to identify with that, including my son as well. He loved Black Panther. He was a big fan of the movie. He was a big fan of all the, every time he was in one of the Marvel movies and that kind of stuff. And, it was just something that was great to like represent for other people, that we had a character that we could kind of look up to as African Americans and say, oh, well, that's awesome. A black superhero can star in a movie and it can gross over $1 billion. And yeah, there have been other Black superheroes. You could say Spawn or Blade, but they were kind of more like monsters, if you will. I mean, Spawn was kind of like a demon kind of thing, and then obviously Blade was a vampire, and so you did have those, but this was the first where he was like really kind of a superhero, and it grossed like $1 billion at the box office. So it just showed that you could have a starring movie with a Black superhero, and it could make a lot of money. And I just think that was a great thing. I think it was just phenomenal to be able to have that and to be able to see that, what I mean, on screen. I just think that that's just something that I never seen in my lifetime. I know like kids, they're growing up today. They're like really excited to have that character and to be able to see that character. And so it's just really tragic that, he passed away before he was able to make more movies and that sort of thing as well. And is a very transformable character as well. I remember, I don't know, maybe it was like last Halloween or 2 Halloweens ago, and we're passing out candy, and and kids were coming to their door dressed as Black Panther, and it wasn't just Black kids. It was white kids, it was Asian kids, it was Hispanic kids. There were a lot of different nationalities that were coming to our door, and they were dressed up as Black Panther, and so it was just a very transformable character as well. And With that said, I also think that there should be more superheroes of other nationalities as well that could be in starring vehicles. I'm hoping that maybe the Black Panther character leads the way for that, for Asians and Hispanics and Middle Easterns and Indians and Native Americans. I think that everybody should have an opportunity to have a superhero that looks like them, that's in a starring vehicle, starring movie that can gross over $1 billion. And I just think that would be a phenomenal thing, in my opinion. So I just think that that's something this is great and awesome, and just something I would love to be able to see. Now, I did want to just touch on a couple key points about his death before we actually get into the top three. Number one is this guy was very, very hardworking. Whether you liked him as an actor or not, this was a guy that had cancer for 4 years and continued to make some of the biggest blockbuster films of all time, and continued to star in not only just the Black Panther film, but also in all the Marvel movies that were associated with that, with the Avengers, the 21 Bridges film, the Five Bloods film. And he was starring in all these roles while still battling cancer. So this was somebody that wasn't just somebody that allowed life to just give up. He continued to fight and continued to work through, even though he knew that he was very sick and he was still battling this very bad illness that he had of colon cancer. The other thing is just his network of people. A lot of people didn't know is that no one really knew about it. He worked on films and they didn't even know. He just kept his circle really, really small, and so a lot of people didn't know, and that's why when he died, everybody was so shocked, because they didn't know that he had been dealing with this for 4 years, because he kept it very under wrap, and all of the people in his circle also kept it under wraps as well, which I thought was very commendable as well. I think that's a great thing. With that said, I do have a small little rant about his cancer and that sort of stuff. And I get it. The media didn't know that he had cancer, but after he passed away, I saw images that had popped up from maybe like 2 or 3 months ago, where they were showing images of how skinny he looked versus how, in shape and buff he looked in Black Panther. And they were saying things about him like, is he on drugs? Is he on crack? All these things about him, when it turns out the reason why he was skinny was because he was battling and fighting cancer. And that's why he was so skinny. And, unfortunately passed away for, a couple months later. And it just goes to one of those things that I always say about body shaming, is that we don't know what people are going through. We don't know what someone's dealing with. And I don't understand why we as people, or we in the media, choose to body shame people when we don't know what their background is. If someone's skinny, the assumption is that they're a crackhead. If someone's, overweight, the assumption is that they're fat and lazy. But we don't know if they have a thyroid issue. We don't know what's going on with them. And so I just don't think that we should be body shaming people without even knowing what's going on, without knowing what's going on in their personal lives, without knowing the facts. And even if he was on drugs, why are we shaming him? If he's on drugs, why wouldn't we have reached out to him to get him help? I don't understand why in the media we have to go and shame people, because they look skinny. Well, find out what's wrong with that person. Ask them. Instead of just saying they look like a crackhead. Okay, is everything okay? Talk to them. Find out if something's wrong with them. I just think that we should be better people and find out what's going on with somebody's background or what's going on in their lives before we just immediately just jump on the bandwagon and ridicule them online and social media. And it's got to be heartbreaking, because he was still alive when they were posting these videos about him being super skinny, and he saw those videos. So can you imagine, you're fighting cancer, you're fighting for your life, and someone's posting a video, making fun of you and ridiculing you for how skinny you look? I just think that's just terrible. I just think that we could be better people. And I think that if we expect to move forward as a society, we have to stop body shaming people and just, find out what's going on with these people, get all the facts, get all the information before we start to ridicule people. Just my thought. That's just how I feel about it. So yeah, I'm done. I'm off my soapbox. So, this is a movie review show. I just wanted to take a couple of minutes just to talk about his life and just talk about some of the things that I was hearing and seeing that bothered me. And so sorry, Jason, for taking so much time to bring that up. But we are a movie review show, and this is a tribute show. And so I definitely would, like to get into his top three, unless there was anything you wanted to add beforehand.
Oh no, I mean, like I thank you for sharing all that, of course. And he was a really great actor. I think his best work was ahead of him, to be
Yeah,
honest. And yeah, I think he was a really talented guy. It's a shame, and I didn't even know the body shaming stuff was happening because I try to stay. I've been kind of limiting my social media presence in general because it was
because
starting
of stuff
to
like that.
starting to yeah, stuff like that I just don't want to don't want to hear or see. So
No,
uh,
I understand.
so I didn't even know that was happening. But I just remember when I was watching, I remember thinking when I was watching Defy Bloods, I remember thinking to myself like, "Wow, he looks really skinny," but it wasn't like a negative thing. It was just kind of a, and then I moved on. I was like, "He
Right,
looks really skinny."
right.
That was
More
it.
more of an observation, if anything.
Right,
Not so much. A situation where you feel like you have to ridicule him or call names and that kind of stuff.
right.
I think that's the point that we're trying to get across here. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. But
I agree.
I want to thank you for sharing that. And I am aware of what how big of a deal that was in terms of representation, in terms of all kinds of things. So, but yeah, thanks for sharing that. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. It's a shame.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. Well, with that said, let's bring in a little bit more of a lighter note. Let's get into it. Let's start with your number three film for Chadwick Boseman.
Oh, my number three would be what I just brought up, which is Spike Lee's Defy Bloods. So,
Absolutely.
and the only reason I have that as number three because I think it's almost a masterpiece. I love that movie, and I actually, as a movie, I like it more than my number two selection. But he's a smaller part of it, which is why I put it in there. To be honest, I've only seen Defy Bloods once. I intend to watch it again for sure because I loved it. But when I think about that movie, after having only seen it once, I think about Delroy Lindo and Clark Peters. Those are the performances I think of right off the bat. And I remember Chadwick Boseman was good in it, but I don't remember. It was a smaller part, and I don't remember anything too specific about his performance. But for it's definitely in the top three films of his, in my opinion. So that would be my
Yeah.
number three. And I
Yeah.
intend to watch it again, and maybe his scenes will sink in a little more a second time. But it's a long movie. There's a lot to sink in on that one.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree 100%. Yeah, I like the Five Bloods. I didn't like it quite as much as you did, but I did like the movie. I thought that it was a little messy in parts. And
That's Spike
obviously,
Lee,
yeah,
though.
but exactly, it is Spike Lee, and you know, granted, his role wasn't as big as the other people in the role, but it was still an important role in the film
Oh
as
yeah, it's his. I mean, his character is the meaning for the entire movie,
Yeah,
really.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
that's exactly the point. So it was a very important role, and yeah, and he definitely was an integral part of that film as well. So yeah, yeah, definitely one that if you haven't seen the Five Bloods, and and like I said, he's not a big time star in this one. He's more of a co-star in this one, but definitely is one that I recommend you check out. And his acting has always been good in almost everything. Even if I didn't like the movie so much, and I think we talked about this a little bit beforehand, his acting has always been on point. So definitely
yeah.
cool. Um, my number three, and we also talked about this one beforehand as well, is actually going to be Get On Up. I definitely liked it. It's not the most amazing biopic movie I've ever seen, but his performance in there is great. I think he played a great James Brown character. If I have any faults, it's just about the editing and kind of how the way the film was shot and the story and how they glossed over a lot of different issues and things of that nature. But his acting in there was I thought was phenomenal. And that's the thing about his films. Even if the film, if I didn't necessarily love the film, I always can say that I liked his role in the film. So, I thought he played a great James Brown, and I thought he did a phenomenal job in that movie. So, if you get a chance, definitely check out Get On Up. That is a movie where he definitely does star in it. He is a starring vehicle. Definitely one that I highly recommend you check out. So.
Yeah, I wasn't too wild about that one, to be honest. He was great in it. he was the best thing about it for sure. And I do respect that they were trying to do something a little bit different, than the normal, straight ahead ABC chronological biopic. I get that, but I just didn't think the way they did it, it didn't make his story have any momentum to it really, and it was just kind of it just wasn't a very good movie, I didn't think, but he was fantastic in it.
Yeah,
I'm a huge James Brown fan too, so
yeah, and I am as well. Yeah, the story was a little messy. I will give you that. There was a little messiness to the story, in terms of the way they edited it, because they would go back in time, then they would go to like another point in time, and they would go to what would be more closer to the future, or
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Then they would back it back up again, and so it was
normally I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Normally I love that out of chronological order kind of stuff, but I just didn't think it worked here.
Yeah. It was no Tarantino in terms of time shifting and that kind of stuff. So
no. Yeah.
Cool. Well, that was my number 3.
Right.
Number 2, sir.
Number 2 for me is 42. So that's the movie that I think Whoa, what happened? There we go. Live television, folks. Yeah. No, no, this was a movie that I thought brought him to the mainstream in a lot of ways. And to be honest, I've only seen it once, and it was when it was in the theater. So it's been a little while since I've seen it, but I remember really, really liking it a lot. And ironically, I guess you could say, usually I'm like you pointed out in one of our previous shows, I like weird more than you. I like weird things. So you would think I would appreciate the approach of Get On Up more in terms of a biopic, in that it was told kind of out of order and kind of artsy fartsy. That's usually my kind of thing. But this was a much more straight ahead, much more ordinary, for lack of a better word, biopic. But I thought that sometimes the performance is so good, and sometimes like the emotional aspects of the movie is so good that it kind of overcomes like the cookie cutter approach it takes. And this was one of those cases. In a lot of ways, it's a cookie cutter biopic, but he's so good. The story is so well told, and it's so moving in the end that it doesn't matter that it's a cookie cutter approach. It's just a really good movie. And again, he's playing somebody who, like James Brown, is just a hugely important historical figure. So that's easily my number 2. Even though I would say the Spike Lee movie is the better movie in my opinion. This, in terms of he is the whole movie here, and It's a good movie. So that's my number 2 for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I got a feeling our number 2 and number 1 are going to be exactly the same.
Okay.
So
I think probably a lot of people's.
Yeah. And unfortunately, he just wasn't in enough roles in order to have a long catalog of somebody that's, he was only a year older than us when he passed away. So It wasn't like he was a guy or anything like that. So, but yeah, no, that's my number 2 as well. I liked 42 quite a bit. It's a great Jackie Robinson story and breaking down color barriers. And you can obviously argue the impact of what Jackie Robinson did, as opposed to, I'm sure, our number 1, which is more of a fictional character, but you could argue that impact was just as huge or bigger in terms of breaking down color barriers and walls for Major League Baseball and that kind of stuff as well. No, definitely a great film. I enjoy it quite a bit. I've never been a big baseball guy personally, but I've always, I love biopics on almost any subject, And everybody knows kind of the Jackie Robinson story. So this was a great to see it on the big screen and brought to life. So awesome.
Yeah.
Number 1, I'll just bring it on in since we already kind of know what it's going to be, which is clearly number
21 Bridges.
No. Yeah, 21 Bridges, baby. You know how we like to do it. So number 1 clearly is going to be Black Panther. I think for both of us.
Yep.
And I've already touched on it before in my brief little rant there. But I'll let you take it away first.
Well, yeah, it's great. I mean, and most people who know me know I'm not a big superhero fan. I'm not a Marvel junkie. I'm not like first in line whenever a Marvel movie comes out. I'm just not. It's not my bag. But that said, there are a handful of Marvel movies that I think rise above kind of the cookie cutter Marvel movie approach, and this is definitely one of them. Like I can, it's it's neck and neck. It's either my favorite Marvel movie or it's neck and neck with Into the Spider-Verse. I think those are the two best Marvel movies that are really something different. They're so much above like the kind of cookie cutter assembly line approach that so many of those movies have, in my opinion. It's this one and Into the Spider-Verse and Guardians of the Galaxy, the ones that really try to do something special. And yeah, I think it's an amazing movie. It's just so well done. It's so exciting. It's funny. It's got a great cast of characters. It looks beautiful. It really hits it checks all the boxes that any movie needs to check. And it's miles ahead of 90% of the other Marvel movies, I think, which are, I hate to be controversial but I think most of them are pretty generic. It's the same story over and over with different costumes. But this one's something special. Into the Spider-Verse is something special. The Guardians of the Galaxy movies have a distinct energy. So there's like a handful that rise above, and this is definitely one of them. So for sure, yeah, it's a great movie. Great movie.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's one of those situations, like you said, where it was so big, and I didn't realize it was going to make like $1 billion at the box office and all this kind of stuff. But it was just a really good movie. You know what I mean? Outside of just being in the Marvel universe and that kind of stuff. And I might like Marvel a little more than you do, but I still have some of the same gripes and issues that a lot of those films, if we're all being honest with ourselves, are kind of interchangeable. I couldn't tell you the difference between, Civil War, Marvel Civil War, and Infinity Stone, and you know what I mean? There's so many different ones of them, and I couldn't tell you specifically what happens in most of them. You know what I mean? It's just like...
I don't think a lot of people could.
I mean, it's just like, it's like 20, 30 superheroes that you're trying to give like little snippets of time to, you know what I mean? And it's just like, how are you supposed to give enough time for everybody when you're having to constantly keep shifting around to all these characters and all these different places and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I get some of the same gripe that you have. And like I said, I might care for them a little bit more than you, but you know me, I'm not a huge Marvel guy either. I don't own all the Marvel films or anything like that. I just, I think they're decent. I think they're good popcorn fun, if you will, but I don't.
Yeah, they're all well made. I can't say they're poorly made.
Yeah.
But
yeah, if you're looking for just like a good escapism for a couple hours and that you can just, watch a movie for, I shouldn't even say a couple hours. Most of them are like 3 hours long,
yeah,
but I should say a few hours,
This one's quite long too, but it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
I watched a movie over the weekend, not this one, but I watched a movie that was 2 hours and 40 minutes long, and I never got bored once,
Right. Yeah,
I can't say the same thing about all the Avengers movies.
Yeah, all the Avengers ones are, they're just long for no reason. And well, I can't say for no reason because when you have 30 characters, you're gonna need to give them some time. So otherwise, everybody's getting like one line, So yeah, no, I completely understand. But yeah, like I said, I kind of touched on it earlier that it was just a phenomenal film and it was good. And you also mentioned Into the Spider-Verse, which is another character that's this African American. In case, he's half black and I think half Hispanic, I believe, is what he was in that one. His parents were mixed relationship.
Yeah.
That was another one with where another one where you can have a person of color be in a starring vehicle and it can do very well, such as this one as well. So but yeah, I think that he was a great actor. Like I said, I think he was just on his way to being one of those giant just household names everywhere, and he's got a couple other films that are supposedly slated to come out in the next year or so that they finished making. So hopefully those films are good. If they look good, I'll check them out. But we thank you guys for watching. Let us know in the comments, your thoughts on, his films, if we left any out or didn't include any. The only film that neither one of us included that I've heard other people talk about would be Marshall, and I just haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I haven't either.
But I did hear that it's pretty good. I hear it's kind of in that same vein as 42 and Get On Up kind of thing. So
it's a biopic.
Yeah, it's another biopic. So that was the only one that we hadn't seen. So. Well, with that said, R.A.P. to Chadwick Boseman, and we always hate to have to do a show, a tribute show on somebody. Why after they pass, it's always better to be able to do it when they're still living. But we do have some things coming up in the future of other actors and things of that nature that we're probably going to be doing. That are still living, some of their great films. But we thank you guys for watching. And if you like the channel, obviously we hope that you hit the bell notification and subscribe so you don't miss our uploads. And we'll see you guys all again real soon. And so we're going to sign off with a Wakanda salute. Thank you.